All right. So you guys can see this is an actual, it is an actual version of the exam. So please pay attention, listen, and understand how to do this so you can do well on the exam. All right. So here we go. Here's question number 1. So the first thing on question number 1 that we want to do is we want to come up with a common denominator. And since 9 and 5 are what we call relatively prime to each other, we need to make them have the same denominator. And the only way to do that is to have them have the same denominator, is to multiply them together. So what we're going to get there is by multiplying them together, I multiplied the 9 by 5, I multiplied the 5 by 9, and got this answer. So since I did that, now I have to multiply the 7 by 5, so that's going to give me 35. And I have to multiply the, and really what I should have done is multiply by a negative. No need actually, because they'll both have the negative there, so it doesn't really matter as long as they have the same number. This is still going to be negative, and then multiplying 6 by 9, that's going to give me 54, correct? But that should still remain negative. And so when I add those up, I'm going to get 45 in the denominator, and I'm going to get, looks like 89 negative, and that is my answer for that first one. Are there any questions on how I got that? Okay, cool. All right, so moving on to the next one. Here, let me make sure I got you all muted. Okay. So moving on to this next one. Again, I'm going to have to do the same thing. I have 4, 8, and 10, and so I think the common denominator is going to be 40. So that's going to be 40. I multiplied that by 10, so that's going to be a negative 30. 8 times 5 is 40, so this is going to become 35. And then I multiplied that by 4, so I need to multiply that by 4. We're okay with that? Okay. So what that's going to give me is a negative 35, or negative 30, plus 35 gives me a 5, minus 4 gives me a 1. We're good? Okay. All right. Now going on to the next problem. It's a word problem, and it says a crew must pave a road that is 3/4 of a mile long. They can repave 1/48 of a mile each hour. How long will it take the crew to pave the road? Well, in order to get the time right, this is a distance, right? This is really our rate, and they are looking for how long is a time, correct? So if we know our formulas, distance is equal to rate times time, we're going to go 3/4 is equal to 1/48 times t. And since we're multiplying by t, we have to divide by 1/48, right? Or that's the same as multiplying by 48. Yes, that's right. So I'm going to go 3/4 and I'm going to divide by 1/48. But when I divide by a fraction, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 4 becomes a 1, the 48 will become a 12. 3 times 12 is 36. And our answer is 36 hours. So understanding what type of problem it is and then setting up the equation correctly, that gets us everything that we need. Okay? Not too bad, right? Okay. So the next question they're telling us what c and y are, and then they're giving us the equation. So what I'm going to do is just substitute. So then 2 times y, which is a negative 3 over 10, minus 4 over 15. That's going to become, I can reduce that. So I'm going to get 3 over 5 minus 4 over 15. Right? Does everyone see how I turned that into a 5? Is there anyone who has a question on that? No? We're okay. All right, then I need to make them common denominators. So I multiplied that by 5. So, oops. I multiplied it by 3. Sorry. So that's going to become a minus 9, and then, or negative 9. And then here all I have to do is add. So negative 9 minus 4 is going to be a negative 13. And there's my solution for that one. So pretty straightforward, right? If you've done your topics, all of these are here for you and very easy to do. All right, going on to the next. So it says, how much of the circle is shaded? Write your answer as a fraction. Okay, so this isn't too bad. We're basically going to go 2 7ths plus 1/4 plus I don't know should equal a whole. Right? And then I'll move those 2 over, so I'm going to get x is equal to 1 minus 2 7ths minus 1/4. Okay? Now, to be able to solve this, I'm going to have to get a common denominator. That's going to be 28. So x is going to be equal to 28 over 28 minus, the 7 was multiplied by 4, so that's going to become an 8 up top, the 2 times 4, and then that 4 was multiplied by 7, so then the 1 will become a 7. So x is equal to 28 minus 15, right, because the minus 8 and the minus 7. So that will give me 13 over 28. So this piece is 13 over 28. Cool. Excuse me. All right, so for this next one, they want us to subtract. There's really 2 ways to do it, but I'd rather be consistent and do it the way I've shown you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it an improper. So then I'm going to get 50, what is that? 9 times 6 is 54? 54 plus 8 is 62. I had to think for a second. And then 9 times 2 is 18, plus 7 will give me 25 over 9. And then what is 62 minus 25? 25 plus 12, 37. Is that right? And then when I multiply that, that's going to be equal to 4 and 1/9. And Alex will ask you to have it in the simplest form as a mixed number, so make sure you make it a mixed number. All right, going on to the next one. So in this case, what they're trying to do is test to see if you understand common denominators. They already have y, so now what we need to do is make them have the same number in the denominator. So 9 and 6 share 18, so it'll be 18y. So that 9y was multiplied by 2, so the 5 needs to be multiplied by 2. 6y became 18y. I multiplied by 3, so that means I need to multiply the 1 by 3, and so my answer should end up being 13 over 18y. Clear? All right. All right, on to the next. So now they want us to write these in order from least to greatest. Well, since they have the common denominator already, least to greatest is very, very easy because all we have to do is look at the numerator. So the smallest number is 3/10. That is smaller than 4/10, which is smaller than 7/10. And that is our answer. Okay, for number 9, finding a common denominator. So we're only looking at the bottom numbers. So what's the smallest number that these two things have in common?
10.
It's 10. That's the answer. Very, very, very straightforward. As you can see, 2.5 hours for this exam should be plenty of time. There should not be any stress, right? If you've done your work on Alex, this should be very straightforward. So shouldn't be too bad. All right, for this next one, again, we're gonna have to find common denominators, right? So it's 6, 8, and 12. I think 24 is the common denominator. So before I do that though, I wanna change this to, well, I'll make it common denominators and then I'll change the mixed into impropers. So I'll go 7, that's going to be 2/12 plus 2, 12ths, what am I doing? 24 is the number. So I multiply by 4, so that's got to be 4. 2, and that's going to be a 24, so I multiplied by 3, so that becomes a 9. Minus 6. This one's multiplied by 2, so that becomes a 10. And now I need a calculator because I don't want to multiply those all out in my head. All right, 7 times 24 plus 4 is going to be 172 over 24 plus 48 plus 9 is 57 over 24 minus 24 times 6 plus 10 is 154 over 24. So my denominator is going to be 24. My numerator will be 172 plus 57 minus 154 should be 75. And that 24 goes into 75 3 times, right? And the remainder is 3 over 24, but that can be reduced. So I'm going to get 3 over 3 1/8, and that is my solution. So that one takes a couple steps, right? But not too bad, should be reasonable. Okay, now we got a big old long word problem. So let's see what it says. It says a construction crew has just finished building the road. The road is 15 kilometers long, so that's our distance. If the crew worked 2 6/7 days, that's time. How many kilometers of road did they build each day? This here is asking for rate. Okay, so we have distance is equal to rate times time. So again, we need to remember distance is equal to rate times time. So the distance was 15 kilometers. The rate we don't know, right? We'll call it R. And then the time, let's make that into a mixed number. So 2 times 4, or 2 times 7 is 14, plus 6 is 20, so it's going to be 20 over 7. And then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal just to make life easy. 7 over 20 times 15 is my R. We can see, and I'll do this in a different color, that becomes 3, that becomes 4, and I'm going to get 21 over 4 is my rate. Or if I do it as a mixed number, it will be 5 1/4. right? So 5 1/4 kilometers per day. We're good? All right. So the next question, very straightforward. They again have the same denominator. So all we have to do is subtract the numerators. So 7 minus 5 is 2. And then we can reduce that to 1/6. And there's our answer for that one. All right, next. Now we have a fraction divided by a fraction. So when we divide by a fraction, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. Correct? I believe that's 75, 80, 96. I think 3 goes into both. So 3 times 25 is 75, and then 3 times 32 is 96. So there's that one. Jared, what are you asking for? I'm sorry, I just missed what you had there. Jared? Oh, got it. So like in the problem that I just did, trying to figure out what it's asking you to find is what's causing you some problems. Okay, so the problems that we have on this exam, they look like they're going to be distance equals rate times times problems. So like this, right? So what's going to end up happening is when you're reading the problem, you're needing to find out, is it talking about a distance, a time, or a rate? So like in this problem, it said the road is this long. I know that that's going to be a distance. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then it tells me that the crew worked for 2 6/7 days. Since it's days, we know days is time, right?
Correct.
So if I have distance and time, I already know that I'm going after the rate because there's only 3 options. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If we go to that other problem that I did, see how it says here, long distance. Whenever they do miles per hour or kilometers per hour, whenever they do something like this, that's going to be a rate, right? When they want per some time, that's going to be a rate. So that's how you know it's going to be a rate. If it tells you seconds, minutes, hours, days, years, that's going to be a time. Does that help you?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's the big thing with those. All right, so look at this one here, right? This is number 14. It says the amount of snowfall in February was 4 4/5 feet, okay? The amount of snowfall in March was 3 1/4 feet. How much more snowfall was there in February? So is this a distance equals rate times time problem, or is it just comparing how much snow fell?
Comparing.
Mm-hmm. It's just a compare, and since it's just comparing here, it wants to know how much more snow fell in February than in March. So I'm going to go 4 4/5 minus 3 1/3. and then just subtract them to find out what the difference is. So that'd be 24 over 5 minus 10 over 3. I also need common denominators, so it looks like it'd be 15. So this is 72. That was multiplied by 5, so that looks like 50. And so it should be 22 over 15. But they probably want that in a mixed number. That's what they do. And so it's going to be 1 and 7 over 15, and that's my answer. Okay? All right, this next one, they're just asking us to add. We've now practiced enough that we know we just need to find a common denominator. So that common denominator will be 15. I multiplied the 5 by 3, so that 3 needs to be multiplied by 3. The denominator 3 needs to be multiplied by 3, or by 5, I'm sorry. So the 1 needs to be multiplied by 5. And we're going to get 14 over 15, and that is our answer. You guys want a bunch of those, don't you? I gotta turn off those stupid email notifications. Setting up this computer is crazy. Do you guys hear that loud beep? I'll make sure it's off for the next time. It's frustrating. The recording's gonna have those loud beeps too. That would annoy me. Okay, sorry. All right, the next question. Last year, 63 new houses were built in the neighborhood. So far this year, 6/7 of them have been sold. How many new houses have been sold this year? So, in order to be able to do this, my total number is 63 homes, correct? Now, since it's saying that 63 homes, I'm sorry, not 63 homes, 6/7 of the homes have been sold, what ends up happening is to be able to figure out what that is, how many were sold, I'm going to multiply by 6/7. Okay? This 7 ends up canceling with this 9. And what we're going to get here is that's going to become a 9. And so 9 times 6 is 54. And that's how many houses have been sold so far. Now, do you want me to show you another way to do it? Here's another way to do it. Since I know 6/7 of the homes have been sold, I could have just gone, all right, what's 1/7 divided by 7? That would have been 9, right? So that means there are 7 clusters of 9 homes, right? So 9 and 9 and 9 and 9 and 9 and 9 and 9, right? That's 7 of them, right? Well, that cluster was sold, that cluster was sold, that cluster was sold. That's how many have been sold. One of the 9ths is still available to be bought, right? So then what we can do is go, all right, 9 plus 9 is 18, 27, 36, 45, 54. So 54 of the 67 total homes have been sold. You guys with me? All right. Next problem is just multiplication. That's very straightforward. We can just multiply straight across. So 4 times 7 is 28, and 5 times 9 is 45. There's your answer. All right. This next problem does require that we do it in the proper order. So that means that we have to do the exponential first. So I need to go 1/3 times 1/3, and 1/3 times 1/3 is 1/9, correct? Well, now that we've done that piece, we need to deal with this. And this is a product, so we need to multiply first. And when we multiply first there, I'm going to get 7 in the numerator, and 8 times 9 is 72, correct? And now from here, I need to get common denominators. So 72 is the common denominator. So I multiplied 9 by 7. Is that right? 9 by 7. Let me see. I'm trying to think. No, I need to multiply 7 by what? Stupid thing. Ooh, actually, what is their common denominator? That's gonna, oh no, I was right. 9, I have to multiply by 8. Silly me. I don't know what I must be tired. 72, so that's by 8, so that's gonna be 56. And then 56 plus 7 is 63 over 72. But 9 goes into both of those. 9 goes into 63 8 times. Oh, I'm sorry, 7 goes into each of them. So 7 goes into 63 8 times, and 7 goes into, I'm sorry, 8 goes into 72 8 times. I'm tripping. I'll write it down just so you guys can see. So this one would have been 63 is the same as 9 times 8, and this is the same as 9 times. What am I doing? Gosh.
Professor, isn't it 7 over 8?
Oh yeah, that's why I'm all messed. See, I'm not totally not thinking. It's crazy. This is 7 times 9, and this is 8 times 9. I'm trying to show you the factor to cancel. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I was tripping. It's so strange. All right, does that make sense though, the process? I don't know what's going on. It's an off day for me. But does that make sense how the 7 times 9 is my 63 and the 8 times 9 is my 72? And then if you break it down this way, you can see the 9s go away and you get 7 times 8. My apologies. I promise I know how to do these problems. Okay, next one. It says the circle below is cut into 12 equal slices. What fraction of the circle is shaded? So the first thing, they want to know how much is shaded. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So 4 parts of the whole circle. So the whole circle is how many? Well, here, I'll number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And there you go. So they say what fraction of the circle is shaded. So they're not asking us to reduce here. The circle has 12 parts to it. 4 of those parts are shaded. This is the answer. It's not asking you to reduce it, because if you reduced it, it would totally change what the problem meant. Does that make sense what I'm saying? If you reduced it, it would become 1/3, right? But if you do 1/3, 1/3 is going to look like this. And then it's the same area, but it doesn't represent the circle the same. So you would probably get this wrong. Okay, so when they ask you what fraction of the circle is shaded, they've got a fixed number of slices, so it should be 4/12. Okay? All right. Again, trying to see if you understand least to greatest. And this time, though, they have different denominators. So we could take the time to put them into different denominators. I already know the answer. Too many years of experience. This one here, I think of it as a decimal, is 0.6. This is 0.3. This is even smaller because it's got a bigger denominator, so it's smaller than 0.3. So I know that this is going to go this way. But if you don't see that, that's okay. Let's find the common denominator. Okay, and the common denominator. Yeah, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
You just unmuted yourself, just making sure.
All right.
Okay. Okay. So then if you want to find the common denominator, in this case, I think it's going to be, I think it's 110. So then 3/10 I multiplied by 11, so that would be 33. This would be 30. And then the 5 would be what? What did that multiply by? 5 would be multiplied by... 110 divided by 5, I should know this, is 22. So then this would be 66. And then you can clearly see this was 3/10, this was 3/11, this is 3/5. You can clearly see smallest, second smallest, largest. Right?
Professor, I had a question. For the test, do we have to show that work, or if we know it, do we just write it out how we know it?
You can write it out. But you know how we use that template to be able to write the exam? If you were to make a mistake, because sometimes people have done this on an exam, they have it right on their paper, and then they put it into the exam wrong, and I give them credit for it because it's on their paper correct. So it's just always better to write it down, because then I can trump something that you've made a mistake on. Oh, I didn't mean to. I can correct it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, here's the next one. So it wants us to multiply these. Again, what we should do here is change them to impropers. So that first one's going to become 2 times 5 is 10. It'll be 11 over 5. And then 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 7 is 25 over 9. And then what we can do is multiply straight across, unless we can simplify. And we're fortunate we can. This will become a 1. This will become a 5. And we can see we're going to get 55 over 9. But they want it in mixed form. So 9 times 6 is 54. So that should be a 6. 1 is left. And our answer should be 6 and 1/9. We okay? All right. Okay, so this one here, the book probably tells you that you can borrow and not change the fractions, right? So you can change that 8 to a 7 and make that 11 over 10. Did you guys see it that way? I'll show it just so you guys can see. So I can change that 7, that 8 to a 7, and now make that 11 over 10 minus 2 over 3/10. And what ends up happening here is the numerator, see how this numerator is smaller than this one? But since we're subtracting, we can't subtract small to big. So we have to go big to small, right? So in order to do that, I borrowed from the whole number 8 and added 10 to that 1. Now what ends up happening is I can subtract like normal. What's 7 minus 2? That's 5. The denominator stays the same. What is 11 minus 3? That's 8. And then I can reduce that to be 5 and 4/5. So that's one way to do it. Or what we could do is we could do the improper number and then subtract. That's the way I typically do it, because I think people get confused this way. So I'd get 81 over 10 minus 23 over 10, which is going to give me, what is that, 81 minus 23, what is that, 58? And then that can be reduced to be 5 and 8/10, which is 5 and 4/5. So there's two ways to do it. Okay? All right. What does the word of mean?
Multiply.
Right? It's multiplication. So when we look at this, it says what means I don't know. Is means equals, right? 1/8 times 56. Or what's 58 divided by, what's 56 divided by 8? So 56 divided by 8 is 7. All right. Let's see. I'm going to try to break this down. 3 times 3 times 5 times x times w. And then this will be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times x times y. Do you guys agree with how I broke that down? Does anyone need me to show how I broke that down? No? I did it in in some of the examples I did in previous lectures, right? Okay, so then from here, it looks like 3 will take 3, that will take that, x should go with that, and the only thing left on top is 5w. In the denominator, I'm going to have 2 times 2 times 2 is 8 over y, and that is my solution. We're good? Okay. Okay, and so in this one, we're dividing fractions. So what do? We change it to multiplication and reciprocate, right? That should become a 3. That should become a 2. And we should get 26 over 7. Or, over 7. Over 21. I almost forgot the red 3. And that's my answer. And that's your exam in a nutshell. Okay, are there any questions on this at all?
On the last one, if it's in simplest form, do we have to put it in a mixed number, or do we just leave it that way?
So no, you see how it says simplest form?
Oh, okay. Got it.
In the others, when it's asked for a mixed number, it'll say as a mixed number in simplest form. So that's the difference between those two. So that's a good question to ask, the distinction in the directions. When they ask you for a mixed number in simplest form, then yes, you have to change it to a mixed number. But when it just says simplest form, as long as it's a fraction that's reduced as much as possible, you're good. Okay? Are there any questions on any of these? We're okay? All right, I'll stop recording here and then I'll answer any questions that you might have about homework or anything like that, or your work, and we'll go from there. So let me just stop recording real quick.